Hi and welcome. My name is Kartika Nair and you're watching Synchro Shakti. So we got a lot of really good response from our previous video on mindfulness. And so today I want to take a few moments to tell you my story with mindfulness. So I studied abnormal psychology in university. And I had a very textbook understanding of what negative thinking was, what losing control of your mind was, or losing control of your emotions was. I had a very textbook understanding of mental health and mental issues and disorders. But nobody really understands what a mental disorder is up until you go through one. And so many of you might have known this, that in my past, in my history, I went through a very long period of high levels of anxiety and panic, resulting in years of constant panic attacks, not being able to leave the house because I was scared to leave the house, not being able to eat, not being able to sleep, not being able to breathe, not being able to have any sort of confidence in life or anything because I was constantly scared of having another panic attack. And the panic just basically consumed my entire reality. All because of the dysfunction or the unconsciousness in this tool that we call the mind. And I didn't know of this at the time. So one day, my bosses at the job that I was doing at the time, they took me to a charity event. And I could not function because I had a very high level panic attack. And I remember coming back to the office and I was standing at the door, at the entrance door, and my boss's wife was standing inside the office and she was looking at me directly in my eye with a very angry look. And she told me, "How do you plan on living your life's goals and dreams and traveling around the world when you can't even get a hold of yourself, when you can't even control what's going on in your mind?" And I remember feeling so infuriated in that moment because I knew she was right. I knew that I had lost control of my mind and my emotions, and I felt like I was not being allowed to live the purpose of my life, which was to live it peacefully and joyfully and with abundance. So I went for years from one therapist to another therapist to another therapist, from one technique to another technique to another technique. I even got certified in all of those techniques, so I have my certifications to prove this. But there came a time that I had given up because the whole time I was looking for somebody to heal me out of this, for somebody to save me from this, from somebody to basically come and rescue me out of all of this pain and suffering that I was drowning in. And because there was nobody else who could help me, I gave up. And there came a time when I said, okay, this is the cards that I've been dealt in my life. And I would always choke up and I would think of this. This is the cards that I've been dealt with in my life, and this is what I should accept and somehow either continue living with it or don't live at all. But somehow there's always this glimmer of consciousness in the background that said, let's just give it one more try. Just one more try. This was the last try. Otherwise it's sink or swim from here. Last try. So I decided to travel to my hometown and see a therapist over there. I traveled, I saw this therapist, and no, he did not help me, but what he did was he put me, for him to do the therapy he was doing on me, he had to put me in a meditative state. So I got into a meditative state and it switched off my brain enough for me to see that maybe I can open myself up to some solution that may actually work. And so I got out of that office, the therapy office, and I went to my uncle's house. And I walked through that door, and on the table there was a book called Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. This was a moment that completely changed my life. Not because I hadn't heard of mindfulness before, but because I hadn't known mindfulness at the level that I know it today. So what did I do? I took the book and I internalized those teachings. I understood the nature of the mind. I understood the nature of our ego, our identification with the personality. I understood what is causing the pain body and all the suffering. And I truly internalized that information, and I applied it not just to face my fears, but to also face all the internal suffering that I had kept inside of me throughout my childhood, and I looked at it to a point where I dissolved it and reached a state of absolute freedom without medication, but only meditation. So mindfulness taught me to come back to the present moment, but it also taught me how to let go of this constant mental attachment to what had happened and to the fears of what you might think might happen. And so it allowed me to go from this constant reaction state, which is I'm reacting to everything that's going on in my mind or in my body or in my life, from going from complete reaction state, which is like kicking and basically getting stuck in that same situation, to being able to step back and observe with confidence and strength and power what was going on in the mind, in the emotions, as well as in my life, and allowing it to pass through without me being touched, which means pass through, leaving me untouched and therefore peaceful. So within a short period of time, I developed a very strong mindfulness meditation practice for myself, and I did it for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, that's it. And within that 3 weeks, what happened is I went from complete dead because I was disconnected to coming back to life, and I learned how to use these tools and techniques in my everyday experience of anxiety and my everyday experience of low self-esteem and my everyday experience of constantly being upset about what happened or being fearful of what would happen. So I applied it and I went into the state of freedom. These teachings are the teachings of liberation from suffering, from anxiety, from depressive episodes, from any form of dysfunction that you and me may experience in our lives. Why? Because all this dysfunction is not just because of the dysfunctional society we live in, it's not just because of the dysfunctional lives we live, but it's intrinsically because of the dysfunction in our minds. So ever since that experience of coming out of something that psychology would say is incurable, you have to constantly cope with it, ever since I came out of that, I have profusely professed these teachings. And so I began to teach a very strong mindfulness course, and a lot of my clients took it. And what we noticed is that it transformed them. It rewired their brains and their personalities while they were practicing these tools and techniques. People who came to me with complete depth of suffering and pain in their lives today, and you guys know who you are because you can contest with them, you can find out with them, they are not just content, happy, powerful people because they have an edge over what they are experiencing, they have an edge over their thoughts and their emotions, but they are the very people who are now very successful in the fields that they came here to explore, whether it's in their relationship or in their jobs or in their careers. These guys have not just achieved kind of balance in their mental and emotional state, but they've also applied that into other areas of their life. And it's been an absolute joy to be able to give this information and these teachings to these people. Now mindfulness, do not get me wrong, is not about let's have a disorder and then use mindfulness. No, mindfulness is what you would do in order to not get disorders. And if you do have a disorder, the psychologists and the psychiatrists have told you there's something wrong with you, mindfulness is the way to undo that and come back to your natural state. So mindfulness is basically applicable to everybody and for all dysfunction. You are most welcome to do other therapies. Learn about alternate modalities, but understand that the root of all your dysfunction is in the mind, and you have to learn to understand it and to control it. So if you would like to know exactly what I did, I will tell you for free right now in this moment. Down below a link that you can click to download a free 4-page guide that I've created for you specifically on explaining what mindfulness is and giving you free access. It's in the document, it's in the guide. 5 mindfulness techniques, very simple techniques that you can do every day, but will completely transform your life. It's free. Just gotta download, just gotta click this link. It's one click to change your life. All you gotta do is click the link and it will download immediately into your PC. Just go through the document, take those tools and techniques, see the ones you best like, and put them into your daily routine. That's it. In our industry, we believe that there is only one difference between the guy who wants to get better in his life versus the guy who actually does get better in his life. And the one difference is that the guy who wants to get better is interested in getting better in life, but the guy who does get better in life is a guy who's committed to getting better in life. If you're committed, take action. It's free. Just click on the link, download it immediately into your PC, go through the document. It's just 4 pages. It's free. Take that study it, take those studies and internalize it and apply it, and everything is going to be alright. Take my word for it. Thank you so much for watching. It was a pleasure, and I will see you soon. Namaste.